It's like
All
a
right,
video
you're
of
live.
how it works.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's nice.
so this is our regularly scheduled meeting of the Infrastructure Committee, and around the table, we have committee members, committee Councillor Dean, Councillor Fournier, Councillor Hawes, and Councillor Leonard, and we also have Councillor Tremble, Council Chair Pelletier, and Councillor Fish here. So we're gonna get started with the Infrastructure Committee agenda, and the first one is one that everyone loves to get every year, which is the final paving list, and that's Aaron Hurry.
Good evening. Thanks for having me here. And I'm only doing one of 8 bullet points, so I will step away. I'll make this quick though. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on our paving plan. I'm really excited with what's going on with the paving plan. We did get support from the council for moving to a calendar year, which has already started to pay back dividends. We also did some realignment at Public Works to make a full-time pavement management officer. And he jumped right in, really doing a great job. So positive changes going on. Start out with kind of his first task, which was taking all of the streets that our foreman, assistant director, myself, and then all of the resident requests for paving. And he jumped right in and started doing a pavement condition index. And that's just a standardized approach to measuring the condition of the street. And that's based off a Army Corps of Engineering scoring matrix. And that, I think that lends a little more credibility to our program when we're paving streets based on not who's screaming the loudest, but who has the worst score. Sometimes those two actually match up pretty closely because of the number of people that are driving on those streets. But anyway, so he put together that list, and then he sent that out to our stakeholders who are also doing work on the streets with the hopes that someday we're going to get to the point where we never pave a street and somebody digs it right back up. So we take that feedback, all these projects, we take streets off where they have upcoming work, and then we just make a plan to keep patching and getting that through. In addition to developing that list, he also approached our economic development officer who just spoke to you earlier, Robin, and he actually identified the low to moderate income index for each street, each section of street that he had recommended for paving, presented it to her and asked for assistance. And she has worked with us. It looks like we're over $200,000 in CDBG funding to help pave streets. So when we get that outside money, that's always, as far as I'm concerned, that's always a nice thing. So this is fairly new process to her. She talked about improving her CDBG process, and I think this is all part of it. It's good to have the departments working together. So this list that I attached here is lengthy, but this is our goal to pave all of these streets this calendar year. And it seems invariably things come up. We have an infrastructure failure that necessitates a bigger project than anybody expected, and our paving gets put off. But I think this will be the majority of what we get done. In addition to this, we do have some small paving projects, the waterfront parking lot, not where the harbor master shack is, but over on the other side where the trucks sit. That's scheduled for paving this year. Some work out at the airport, a small parking lot, not this big project they've got going, but yeah. So lots of excitement and on our end of it, lots of excitement around the paving program. He's also doing things like he signed up for a 6-month trial for a new software and hardware combination that mounts to the back of his mirror. Every road he drives, it's automatically assessing the pavement using an AI algorithm. And once we get that data from that, we're going to compare it to his pavement condition index and see how those line up. And just a bunch of different trials. He's trialing out different crack sealing methods. He's gone to a couple different trainings and conferences regarding remedial treatments that will extend the life of our pavement, and extending that life really can save the city a lot of money. So I just love the energy he's put into this, and he's also, by the way, in charge of our striping, and I know that's not what we're talking about today, but he's jumping on striping. We're doing a trial downtown this summer of inlaid striping so that we get longer lasting stripes, a lot more expensive, but it's a trial. You know what I mean? We'll spend a little bit of money to determine whether or not there's places that it makes sense. John is going to get some inlaid striping out at the parkade with that difficult change in traffic flow out there. But that will allow that to last year after year because it's below the surface of the pavement. Plows aren't scraping it off every year. So this guy's doing a lot of great stuff. Greg Mitchell been with us for 13, 14 years and applied for this position and very glad that he got promoted into it.
Nice guy.
Questions?
Well, no, I'm glad. I didn't realize we were having that position. That's great. I was just thinking about this the other day. So I don't know how you grade pavement, if it's 1 to 10, 1's the best, 10's, that's a dirt road.
Pretty much.
So if, we say, okay, when you get to level 6, a street should be paved. Do we say a level 6 street that's got 15,000 cars a day should be paved before a dead end level 6 street?
Perfect. Yeah. So that has not been incorporated. Right now, he's still learning that whole pavement condition index. And, he has this big matrix that he's filling all these out. Traffic.
I was going over a street the other day and I said, boy, this is rough. I'm sure it'll be on this, and alas, it's not on the list.
But
You can
it
just
may
take a
have
look
been
at
on.
Franklin Street, and that's the other thing. I personally, I think the downtown streets,
Yeah.
should be kept at a higher level than some of the neighborhoods. Everybody goes through downtown.
But I think
They expect
Franklin
it.
was on the list, but there's infrastructure work
Oh,
scheduled,
so
if I
that's what I'm
remember
putting it
right.
on.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
wondering if that was a reason.
And in the name of transparency, that might be something that we do is say, okay, this was on the list, but we have this and this work coming up. So this has been pushed back. Bear with us a little longer.
Great, thanks.
Councilor Vivian?
Yay, Hawthorne, that's all.
I just have two questions. So there's like 3 categories, overlay, maintenance, mill and fill.
Yes.
What is the, like, I feel like that must be like good, better, best, or least invasive,
No,
most invasive, or what's?
Yeah, well, so when a street has, number one, really started to deteriorate badly, it's hard to put an overlay over it.
Okay.
If you have a nice solid base to work with, you can put an overlay and we'll go in and we'll crack seal that to stop the water infiltration after the bottom. A mill and fill is used, number one, to maintain normal road height. And number two, when you really have a bad road. So as you mill it, you bring it back down so that the new pavement doesn't just keep getting higher and higher and water's flowing into people's driveways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Half the time we mill it and it's 100% better than it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only other thing is that if we make this available on our website to not have that watermark in the back, it's a little
Yeah.
hard to read.
Doctor, apparently I'm supposed to flatten it before I.
Yeah, but, cause I know people,
Convert it.
I know people like to see this and see
Yeah.
it come on. And then the last question is, when does it start?
So the plant opens on Monday. We start paving on Monday. Not necessarily on a street. I think our first targets for street may be the end of next week, but probably early the following week. Clinton Court, Clinton, there's kind of that little, and that's really got a lot of work done to it. Was it stormwater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stormwater and sanitation.
And sand, okay. So, yeah, we're gonna jump on that first.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Alright.
no, paving soon, very soon. And it was good, you know what I mean? We have all this taken care of early. We bid out January, February, and here we are ready to rock and roll instead of going, well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I just have a general question. It's always been curious in my mind because a lot of constituents always ask about the depth of the roads.
Mhm.
What's a reason to have 1 inch pavement as opposed to 1.5 or 2 inches, which is what is the?
Yeah, generally, when we need to do a more in-depth rebuild, we'll put down a base layer. So trying to think where we have one right now. I just got Eaton Place. We put down a base. We did a bunch of work there. We put down the base, then we kind of let it all settle over the winter. Then we'll put down that final top coat, which is generally the 1/2 inch on top. So, and that's a more dense material that handles the call it a wearing course. Yeah. So, we have streets in Bangor that when a contractor digs into it, there's 6 inches of pavement there. And I think 6 is where we top out, because if they don't put back as much pavement as there, then that moves differently than the surrounding area. So we asked them to match it up to 6 inches. Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah. And if there's
you only
9
have 12 inches of pavement because it's
Yeah.
been around so long.
yeah, exactly. It's not the best case scenario, but there's situations where it didn't make sense to mill it out, so. And it's a nice solid base, so you keep working from there.
I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
All right, so next we have Richard May with our stormwater information.
Hello. Aaron gets to come up here and look like a hero. We have a mouse here, Courtney.
I'm gonna bring it up and then you can use the keyboard,
Okay,
to filter through.
okay. So most of you counselors have seen this before. I'm gonna try and do this more quickly than I typically would, because I have another piece to talk about in terms of where we're at, in the permitting process from the state. But we'll just start here. So we have a stormwater permit from the Maine DEP. It's part of the Clean Water Act. It comes from the US EPA. And DEP administers it here in Maine. So we deal with them as our regulator.
Try again.
There we go. Okay. So there's a few different kinds of sewers that we have here in Bangor. We have storm sewers, which are strictly stormwater. You know, it's just stormwater going in there from the streets and wherever else. And that's what this permit regulates. We also have sanitary sewers, which of course, you know, you flush the toilet, you run the sink, it goes to the pipe, it goes to the treatment plant. And then we have combined sewers, which is more like the combined sewer overflow control structures that we have, similar to the big tank that's on the waterfront. Those are permitted separately. And of course, we have all three in town. This is how the permit is structured. It's a lot of acronyms here. So MCM stands for minimum control measure. We have 6 kind of building blocks of the permit. 1 and 2 are public education and outreach, and also public involvement. And we have a collective group around the Bangor area that involves 7 municipalities, 5 government entities that are also permitted. And we work collectively to do events and do the outreach for that. MCM 3, illicit discharge detection and elimination, that's finding pollution sources and stopping them. MCM 4 is construction site, stormwater runoff control. Mostly this is having to do with soil stabilization, sediment control, that kind of thing. And post-construction is the management of permitted structures that were required to be put in place to control stormwater on a developed site. And that could be for both us or for private development. Most of it is private development, of course. MCM 6, pollution prevention, good housekeeping for municipal operations. Things like what Aaron's staff is doing, you know, they're out ditching. They're putting hay over the dirt at the end of the day just to keep it from washing away and to stabilize it permanently. Just the same as we would expect from anybody else. So I know I'm going fast. If you guys have questions along the way, just jump in. So as I said, BASWAG is our collaborative group that we work with. You may have seen video ads on YouTube, pre-rolls. We started working with a marketing firm probably 6 years ago now, and that really made a difference. Having marketing people rather than engineers trying to be marketers.
That's how that goes.
Yeah. So you might see something like this. This is a storm drain stencil, obviously before the paint. These are some of the things that we would do for public participation, just to get folks out there and also spread the message beyond just that participation. We typically had a booth at the Maine Science Festival. We had to cancel this year because we had that big snowstorm, which of course was too little too late for most people. This is an example of, you know, the kind of things that we're trying to tell people. People still don't understand. If it goes in a drain, it goes to a stream or a river or a pond or whatever the closest water body is. It does not go to the treatment plant, except in those cases of combined sewer, which is not the norm. Some other items that we've dealt with over the past. This is sort of the more satisfying part of the permit, the illicit discharge detection and elimination. It's nice to be able to find something that happens and, you know, stop it from happening continuously. And some of that is more of like a chronic pollution where you have a sanitary service that's connected to the stormwater pipe and then that's going right to the stream. And others, it's more like dumping and spills, that are maybe not controlled very well. So we systematically look at our outfalls, which is kind of the end of the pipe before it gets to the water bodies, on a regular basis. This is just an example of an illicit connection we had, in the recent past. So this, Pine Street, 67 Pine Street. This was a historic building and it was moved to this lot, I think around 1990. And while that lot was vacant or while the old house was there that was torn down, we separated the sewers on that road. So now there's two sewers. There's a stormwater and a sanitary. And when they moved this house, they connected to the first pipe they found servicing the lot, which of course went to the old sewer, which is now the stormwater. So about 32 years of discharge there. So that, I mean, you can see that's how we made the new connection. This is where it was previously connected here to the stormwater and we extended that to here.
Can I ask how that was discovered?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we had Essex Street, that stormwater pipe failed there. And so we were redoing that and starting on Hancock Street and going up. And on Hancock Street, the contractor was in the pipe. And one day he's like, it kind of smells like soap or like laundry down here. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then the next day he's in there again. He's like, well, that's corn. I'm like, okay. That giveaway. He's,
I thought you were just being gracious by saying it smells like laundry.
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising. You can have a connection like this and you look at the water and you're like, it's fine, it's
Yeah.
cold, it's clear, but it obviously isn't. So tracing that upstream, we used a dye test and this is an image from the sewer cruise camera that they have. So that's red dye coming out of the building right there into the stormwater pipe.
Wow.
Here's a crew fixing it, so they're running it under the old connection and down into the newer sanitary sewer. So you kind of see the old stormwater right here. They go under that and then that gets patched in like that. And everybody's happy and we spent lots of money, but we fixed the problem, so we're happy. So like I said, that's sort of like the best part of that permit, I think, because you find that and it's satisfying. And then construction site runoff control, this is, we're required to do inspections on every site that disturbs over an acre or a half acre in our urban impaired stream watersheds. Just making sure the contractors are taking care of things. So I do 3 of those on each of those sites. That's a silt fence that's properly installed. The bottom isn't flapping in the breeze, which you'll see a lot, but that's a proper installation, even though it looks messy. Another example, you can see the wood chip berm, that does the same thing, slows the water down, the fines settle out, and the water leaves the site a little bit cleaner than it would. You can see it's kind of piled up right here. That's the sediment that would have left the site if they didn't have that berm in place. You can have a simple catch basin protection like that as well on a smaller site. And then here's kind of the end of a project. This is what we're looking for. Grass is green, soils are stable, you know, rain's gonna hit that and be absorbed and not run off.
I've seen this presentation many times, but now like I notice this stuff when there's construction, like when Hudson was building a new Alphon Hall, I'm like, oh, they got the catch basin protection, they have the silt, like, so I feel very, so I know this is just like your thing you have to do every year, but just know that I pay attention, I recognize it out in the world.
Yeah.
And now I know why, you know, I don't think I knew what the purpose was for that, now I do, so.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times contractors will still put up that black silt fence, even if they have the wood chip berm, because the public doesn't know the difference,
Yeah.
that they both do the same thing, so, yeah, those kinds of things are nice. I'm just gonna go real quick on this. If you have a pond that you're required to build, you gotta maintain it, you gotta submit, inspection every year. So low impact development, we're gonna get into that a little bit later. And MCM 6, you know, this is all of our departments, we're setting a good example, we're doing the same things. And also, you know, this public or this education of staff and like operations for Aaron's department. We do a training every year over there as well. Urban impaired streams, we've got a lot of area in town that's urban impaired streams by land area. It's about 40%. So there's extra requirements there. DEP wants us to do more there, in addition to, you know, anybody that's developing land. So it's kind of a big deal for us too. Nobody else has 6. We're the leader, unfortunately, in the state. These are some things we've done in the recent past for sort of urban impaired stream improvements. They're both on Arctic Brook. They're both actually in the same location on Grandview Avenue. So we did an in-stream restoration. We had a fluvial geomorphologist. It's a fancy way to say somebody who understands how rivers work. And we also replaced the culvert there to provide better habitat connectivity, flood resilience, that kind of thing. So there's the old culvert coming out. You can see it's seen better days. New culvert is significantly larger to allow those larger flows and, you know, have fish connectivity and everything there too. And this is upstream. You can see we've excavated that floodplain and placed these logs with the root ball intact. And, you know, this is going to allow the stream to expand outside of the channel and reduce the energy that it has in a flood situation. And the logs on the floodplain help with that also. So it looks messy, but it's sort of the way nature would have done it if we'd left it to its devices.
Has it been put to the test, like the big storms in December?
Yeah, I mean, I've been out there a few times since it's been done and everything stays where it is. You know, once we kind of, you know, sometimes there's a little erosion at the inlets or outlets that we repair, but usually once those stable up, they stay good. And then more recently, just infrastructure projects. We did the crossing of State Street near the parking garage for the hospital, Essex Street, which I mentioned earlier, and that included some upgrades on Birch Street. And then Mount Hope Avenue, we had to replace a crossing pipe as well. We did that in the fall near the Humane Society.
The Birch Street, that also included a separation of the stormwater, right?
Yeah, there was sort of a leftover catch basin that we missed the first time around, and we got that this time, improved the drainage on the street at the same time. So that is pretty much it for that portion. These other sort of little tidbits I'm gonna go over in the next portion.
Okay. Any questions about the presentation? So the next one is the stormwater permitting update.
Yes, so I don't know if you've looked in your packet to see the timeline, but this has been a very long process. So these permits are in 5-year cycles.
Oh, sure. Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
No, sorry, I have it.
Okay. So as I said, it's a 5-year permit cycle. So every 5 years, you're supposed to get a new permit. In 2017, DEP anticipated this, that the permit was going to run out in 2018. Started stakeholder processes with, you know, municipalities like Bangor and the other 30 or so that are permitted in the state. It took until 2020 to finalize a permit, at which point it was appealed by an interest group, and they wanted to see low impact development added to that. So that was added to the permit. Then we worked with other municipalities around the state to come up with LID standards, as we were now required to do, and submitted those to DEP sort of on an individual basis. You know, we came up with a model ordinance as a whole, and then tailored it to each community's needs, individually submitted it. DEP basically wrote back to everybody. What did they say? They have no objection to the proposal as written. That was their words. So then Friends of Casco Bay appealed that again. And the result of that now is we're going to have to implement this ordinance this summer. Now that's going to be pushed back to October 2025. And what's happening in the meantime is DEP is updating their Chapter 500 rules, which is sort of the general rules for development in the state. If you're disturbing and developing an acre or more, or a half acre, 20,000 square feet in an urban impaired stream watershed. So basically, they're going to require low impact development for every project that's permitted. And the good thing about that is they're gonna write the standards, which is sort of what was being contested through all that other back and forth. So hopefully those standards between chapter 500 and the MS4 permit will be the same. That's what everybody's hoping. That's what DEP is planning on. Hopefully that's the way it actually plays out. So a lot is going on, but right now, the DEP has basically said, they put out a public notice to say, we're pushing back the deadline to October of 2025. And public comment is open until tomorrow. Where they're not proposing standards or anything at this time, they're just pushing back the deadline. I don't feel the need to public comment, but I, of course, welcome your input on that as well. But I'll be following along with the chapter 500 updates and all the LID standards that are going along with that, so.
That's what I'm here. Only question is, do we anticipate this is gonna have any impact on the Grandview potential development that we're looking at? Do we know? Cause it is, one of the streams is in that area.
Right, and it would apply to any development project once it's being enforced, but where we're not enforcing that LID ordinance until October 2025. No, not exactly. I think we're keeping that stream in mind when we're developing. We're leaving quite a buffer
Okay,
between the housing area and the stream, which is, 75 feet is sort of a good minimum. I think we're a little bit more than that. And trying to preserve wetlands there where we can too, but it's a balancing act. We have a need for housing and a stream that doesn't need to be, damaged any further, but,
Sure.
it
is one of the things that people wrote emails about to us, is making sure that we consider how we best protect that as we
Right.
are developing on that parcel. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, we're balancing.
thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right,
Good, thank you.
All right.
now it's time for city engineer John Terrio. With everything except for the write-in, write-out. And my one listed on here, so. Is that coming?
Oh, you're talking 15th Street. Yeah, I talked to the contractor a couple weeks ago, and I think they already started doing pavement removal on, now I can't think of the little street there.
Beecher?
Beecher, yeah, I think they started tightening that up because there was a lot of pavement out there, so they're reducing the width of that.
All right.
So yeah, it's gonna happen, You'll see it, you'll see it.
So the first item is a main DOT agreement for Mount Hope Avenue sidewalk.
Right, so, these three items are, my first three on the list here are, contracts for locally administered projects with DOT for city manager to sign. The first one is Mount Hope Avenue sidewalk, which actually, this was a grant application that Rich May did, so we got awarded, so, thank you, Rich. It's 2,100 feet of sidewalk along Mount Hope Avenue, starting at Saratoga and going pretty much all the way to Hogan Road. It ends about
Nice.
300 feet short of Hogan Road. Yeah, this gets really good, actually,
Good.
as we go, keep going. So it's new 6-foot sidewalk, and then we're putting curb out there, so there'll be a bunch of drainage improvements along that are part of this project, that DOT is funding. And, that area is pretty flat. There's drainage issues out there. So it's and we've had, actually, me and Rich have had calls from residents in that area complaining about it. And, so we got this sidewalk project and we looped this drainage into it. So it's kind of it's nice to be able to tell. We can't always say someone complains about something and we're like, oh, yeah, we'll take a look at it. But, we're actually going to be able to address this with mostly DOT money. So, it's based, sidewalk projects are always 80-20, 80% money comes from the feds, and then we have a 20% local match. The state doesn't contribute on those ones. So this one, the total cost of the project is $792,172. The Fed portion is $633,737.60, and our share is $158,434.40. Again, it's 20% match. This is in this year's budget, so we're taken care of. So I just need you guys to say, yep, we'd love to do it.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Being no doubt, we have new sign.
All right, perfect. We'll see that on the next council.
And the
meeting.
next one is 14th Street Extension, shared
14th
use
Street.
pathway.
Yes, this is, This is 14th Street Extension. It's the section from Ohio Street to Valley Avenue. There's no sidewalk there right now. There's actually 3 lanes of traffic with a climbing hill, that climbing lane that doesn't really need to be there. The posted speed limit's 25 miles per hour. Everyone gets on that, those 2 lanes going up the hill, and it's a racetrack. So we're gonna eliminate one of the lanes, use that available width to put in a 10 to 12 foot multi-use trail coming down that section of 14th Street. At Valley Avenue, we'll put that connects to the Kenduskeag Extreme Trail. We're gonna put a flasher, an RRFB
Yeah.
there, pedestrian flasher to cross traffic to make it safer. We're probably gonna do a little bit of modifications to Valley Avenue because it's such a soft, when you're heading up the hill, it's a quick right, you know, people speed to make that, and then they go around a corner in a narrow bridge. So we'll probably tighten that up a little bit, hopefully to reduce some speeds. So that project is, the total is $462,799. The feds are coming up with $370,223.20. Our share is $92,555.80.
Not even $100,000, and it's gonna make it so great.
I know, it's
Any
fantastic.
comments or questions on this one? Councilor Porter?
So you're going up the hill, which side are you gonna put?
It's gonna be, if you're going up the hill, it's gonna be on the left-hand side.
Thank you.
And,
On like
and
the
then-
interior side?
right.
Closer.
And there's actually there's also 14th Street Extension, there's a vacant lot there that
Yeah.
the city owns, it has some interest in it, so that slowing down the traffic, reducing the width, kind of benefits that whole corridor, including that lot,
Mhm.
so.
Yep.
Um,
And when does it start?
we'll be designing it, you know, as soon as this gets signed and approved by DOT, we'll start the design process. I don't know if we're gonna get it in this summer, it might be next summer, but I'll try very hard to get it done.
And I would entertain a motion on this one.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? All right, that has passage. So the next one is Broadway and North Park Street intersection improvement.
Yeah, and probably everyone, it's Broadway and Stillwater Avenue, that signal right there.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
actually North Park Street, but everyone thinks
Yeah.
it's Stillwater, so, this is just upgrade of the whole traffic signal. So it'll be new controllers, new cabinet, mast arms, we'll do some, changes to the traffic signals themselves. We're not gonna change the split phasing. Right now, if you're on Stillwater and you wanna make a left again to Broadway, you have your own phase, but all you get's a green ball. And a lot of people sit there and say, because they're expecting the other track to go at the same time, so there's this big hesitation. We'll do some signal displays that kind of make it clear to the motorists that, hey, we'll put a left arrow up there so that they know they can go. So, this one is 80% Fed, 10% state, 10% city. It's kind of an expensive one for a traffic signal, but traffic signals are kind of going crazy. But we're gonna be doing some pet improvements, some ADA compliance improvements there too. Total cost is $714,699. The Fed share is $571,759.20. And state and city share is $71,469.
Right now, they're just like string lights, right?
Yeah, they're span wire and they'll be mast arms, which is kind of
And
typical.
wire.
Span wires when you have the
Yeah.
poles and. the-
String lights does sound like more decorative, doesn't it?
Yeah, like string lights better, like a patio.
Yeah, they're more maintenance for everyone. Those, you know, especially the wood poles, those.
Yeah.
You pull the wire tight and the poles, we want to give a little bit, they sag, it's a constant.
The wind.
Tight and sag, yeah, and it's hard on the overhead equipment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Comments, questions on this one? I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That has passage.
It's the best meeting ever, isn't it?
I know, like, it's the coolest thing to happen.
Aaron's paving your roads, we're making all kinds of trails. All right, the next item is Cumberland Street Utility Project. So this is Cumberland Street from Harlow Street up to Center Street. It's about 900 feet. The road's in terrible shape right now. But what we're doing is this project is actually a sewer stormwater project.
Mhm.
It's part of our consent decree and long-term control plan with EPA and DEP to reduce combined sewer overflows. So although this is only like 900 feet of roadway, there's like 10 catch basins that collect stormwater in a large area. And as you go down the hill, I think it's Harlow Court, is that the name of the road?
Yeah, right out here.
Yeah, Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
We have an overflow structure out here, right? And it's one of those that it occurs a lot, but it doesn't have a lot of flow to it. But consent decree, our goal is to get down to 4 overflows a year, and whether it's, 10,000 gallons or 9 gallons of water, it's still an overflow. So this is one that we're gonna separate it out and try and get that to stop happening. We're focusing on this because EPA and DP gave us a little time to monitor the Davis Brook tank. I mean, we still got tanks coming, folks, just so you know. And, so we did our Davis Brook tank, and then they wanted us to start on the next tank. And it's like, whoa, this creates a complete different operation of our collection system. We would like some time to monitor to see how this impacts it. So they did give us time to impact it, but they said, you gotta keep working, you gotta keep spending money. So we're doing this project was actually in our long-term control plan at the end of it, and we're just bringing it forward to do it now. So, and it, so it gives us a little time to monitor it. So that's, we're upgrading, we're teaming with Water District. They're upgrading a 20-inch main. That's pretty much one of the biggest in the city. We're doing the stormwater, we're doing the sanitary, gonna repave, new sidewalks, kind of the cross-section of roadway that we're kind of shooting for when we do new projects is 11-foot travel lanes, and then at least a 5-foot shoulder so it can accommodate bicycles. So that's what we're gonna put out there. So it's somewhere around a $1.2 million project for 900 feet, right? Because it's got everything in the road that we're doing.
Right.
And so we're spending all that money, and I don't know if you guys read my memo or you saw the little picture that I drew. But I thought this intersection here. So this is Center Street up here. Carlo Street's down the ways. You've got Market Street and Newton Street and then Cumberland Street, and this goes right through and it kind of forms an awkward intersection. And we're doing all this work. If, I didn't want to do all this work and ignore this and then have someone say, well, you did all this work, why don't you get rid of that little funky intersection? So I guess I'm asking you guys, if you've had a chance to look at this, I'd like to make this modification, but,
I don't think it made it into did it make it into our packet? Cause I'm not.
it's deep into the packet, so.
Yes. The one picture I saw was the diverging diamond at the end.
Right before.
On page
Yeah, that's it.
120.
That's
Oh, there it is.
So we're basically
It wasn't
getting
in the
rid of that
It
road.
is.
Yeah.
And so it's right here.
Yes. I know what intersection you're talking about because
Yeah.
teaching my kid to drive, she kept like putting her blinker on to continue down.
So I was thinking, putting a driveway here.
Yep.
And then getting rid of all that pavement, just making that green space and then having the sidewalk come down here, and then we can actually have the sidewalk, make the whole triangle sidewalk, so that you have the opportunity.
Nice.
I don't know if you want me to do that or not.
Yes,
Okay, looks.
I'm for it. Any comments on that? Design?
I will go talk to the property owner here and make sure that they're not, adamant that they have an issue, but the road here and the property, it's all paved, it's not, you would want some kind of curb cut designation, and if that was to stay and I was gonna leave that there, we'd be putting curb cuts in there anyhow and saying you don't get to have 150-foot wide driveway,
Yeah.
so.
You need from us just like a thumbs up or? just a-
If everyone's good with it, I'll go speak to the property owners that are gonna be impacted and then, take it from there. And if I don't have any issues with them, great, I'll move forward. If I do have issues, we might be having further discussion about it. There's not, I guess I should tell you, I looked at DOT's website for high crash locations to see if there was any issue there, and there's no number of crashes there, so I can't say, oh, there's a lot of accidents here, I need to do this, we should be doing it. It's really just, it's,
I think it's confusing to people though.
I've always thought it was confusing, so.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And if you're in that little leg, you don't even know where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to go, it's.
Yeah.
And then the sight distance is terrible because you're looking at a bad angle.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Does that need a motion for the utility part of it? Or,
No, actually, I mean, I do, so, this project is funded through our SRF.
okay,
So it's the same loan, I think that Dave Little talked about yesterday that he was gonna be paying $18 million back this next
Mhm.
go round. Because of the 30 million some odd loan. We're using the last bit of that
Okay,
loan to pay for this
Okay.
project. So,
Alright.
no, I just wanted to inform you about it, and I've got some paperwork that I gotta send out that says I talked to the city about it, and they're all in favor of the project.
Good job. There's more separation beyond just this street from Meadowbrook too.
In future.
Right.
Yeah, but this is like the lion's share of it right out of the gate, I think, isn't it, for the most part?
Now, there's like 4 or 5 other locations,
Oh,
that still
all right.
have cases, but this is the most catchy.
That's what I was getting
Yeah.
at. Cool. All right, hold on, don't.
all right, now the diverging diamonds.
Yeah, so you guys have probably seen that DOT has an informational video out. I think I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the website and it kind of gives you the little history of the project. I added, this is an old drawing. That's in the packet, it's the last page of the packet. That's what they came to us back in 2000. This has been around a while, 2015, December. DOT came to the city of Bangor and said, we'd like to do a divergent diamond.
Mhm.
You know, we're like, what the heck is that, you know? So actually, they paid for Dana Wardwell and Ted Tremblay to fly to Kansas City, because Kansas City is home of many divergent diamonds. And they just wanted to get
To drive it.
to drive, to have someone actually, they drove a bunch of them, you know, and those guys came back and said, you know, they look confusing on paper, but when you're in them and when you're going through them, you don't have a lot of choices to make. It's basically, you follow the pavement marking, you follow the signage, and it puts you through it, and you don't even know you go through it, you know? So, 2015, they were telling us that this was gonna be a 2020 project. And then, well, 2024, so if they were gonna do the work without having to do any work to the bridge. So that was like a big deal because they gain a lot of capacity. The purpose of the diverging diamond is basically to eliminate left turning conflicts. So what they do is if you're at 2 intersections, before you, the diamond interchange, so you got a bridge in the middle. So if you wanna go right, you peel off and you make your right to go, in this case, onto the interstate, right? If you wanna go left, you sit at the light with the through traffic and they push you to the left side of the roadway. And then as you go towards, you know, you're coming off the bridge, you wanna make your left, it's a free flowing left. There's no conflict with it. You know, so you peel off your left, if you're going through, you're staying in the through lane, and then they shift you back over to the other side of the road. So this, basically your rights and your lefts are free flowing at this interchange. And they're very safe because there's not a lot of conflict with them. So,
I mean, I've had friends who've driven through them and say, it doesn't make sense until you go through it. I'll get you in. But then I've watched like YouTube videos of people and like, it makes so much sense when you actually see the video. So I see why they would have sent them to Kansas City.
yeah.
But I've heard so many people who, when traveling, say, wow, what was that? What was that intersection?
Yeah.
And they don't even, like, if they're not panicked, they just go through and they're like, oh,
Yeah,
that's a diversion down. I think it'd be great.
How much does the flow change when we eventually come to the part of the year where our painted lines are just completely gone at that point? Does that affect the safety?
No, I don't think it will, because
Okay.
you're basically channelized to make the movement that you gotta make. You know, you're heading in the direction, you've got overhead signage that tells you what to do, there's no conflicting turning movements in front of you, so it's pretty straightforward. I did print out the plans, and these were sent to me probably 3 or 4 months ago. So they're not the most current one, but this was, but I had to tape them all together because it doesn't make sense looking at it one sheet at a time. But let me back up. So it was supposed to be done in 2020. They did an inspection of the bridge. The bridge was built in 1960. They're like, the bridge has no more life left to it. So now, back in 2015, I think this was gonna be a $3 million project, which I thought was, wow, that's an awful lot of money for what they're doing. Now it's a $46 million project replacing the bridge. They got a $26 million raise grant for the project, so that's good. We have no part in this.
It's feds, right? It's federal.
Yeah.
I just want to speak to Councilman Leonard's question.
as a resident of Bangor, not as a public works director, I made a comment saying that inlaid striping might be appropriate for this, because then it
Okay.
opens your. People can make comments.
So-
And again,
Yeah,
as a private-
Because the only reason I brought that up is there have been many places throughout the state where we started initiating rotaries and people like my grandmother just lost their minds. So that's the only reason I make that comment.
I think
I
this is
love
actually for
rotaries.
most, I like them too.
Easier than a rotary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is much easier to learn than a roundabout or a rotary. So, but the one thing that's fantastic about this, well, the whole thing's kind of cool. It's scheduled to start in 2026, but this provides us with sidewalk and trail from Sylvan Road.
Mhm.
So all the yellow is sidewalk and trail, right? Sylvan Road all the way to Bangor, Mall Boulevard.
Wow.
So that is the piece of sidewalk that's missing out of this whole thing. So now I've got Mount Hope Avenue from downtown all the way up to Hogan Road all the way to Stillwater Avenue all the way to town. You know, it's, and then we've got the Trail 5, which is
Yeah.
off of Sylvan Road, that ties into all of it. So, you know, it's kind of funny because it wasn't more than like, I don't know, probably a year ago, we built that, you know, I got a comment about the sidewalk on Hogan Road that was a sidewalk to nowhere. I took it personal, made me angry. You know, you gotta do things step by step, you know, and eventually they come, and we've got a whole sidewalk route now that is complete with this.
Will the sidewalks be like a multi-use path, like?
Yeah,
like the big
they're
6
8 to 10 feet
That's fantastic.
everywhere.
So someone could take a bike down
Yeah,
there and not
yeah.
be on traffic.
Yeah.
And I know that they were doing public comment, but this is the kind of thing that the feds are gonna do it anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because we really haven't heard a lot about this. I mean, we heard a lot about it in 2015. They had a public meeting in 2016. They may have had a follow-up meeting to that 2016, and then it's been kind of quiet. And this video that they're providing you to look at is kind of like your last chance for commitment on the project.
Well, it's
So-
one of those things I'm hopeful that the feds listen nicely and then do the thing that is most safe and most efficient for that.
I think it's gonna, I mean, the project's paid for and these are the
Yeah.
plans. So,
I think it's.
I'm really excited about it.
2016, I wasn't even a counselor then, so that's like, that's how much of a nerd I am.
And it's the only one right now, it's gonna be the first one in Maine. It's the only one planned. And I think they actually explored doing some in southern Maine and they got so much resistance that they're just like, forget it. And they looked at this they looked at southern Maine first, because that's where they like to spend their money first, but then they come to Bangor where it really makes sense. And they looked at the geometry here, the distance of the bridge, the ramps and everything, and this is like textbook, the
Yeah.
Virgin Diamond. So it's like, let's do it here and this, you know, I talked to the state traffic engineer today because I was at some signal training. And I asked him if any more were planned or anything. He said, no, you guys are guinea pigs. And I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling like a guinea pig here. I think this is a
We're not a guinea
good,
pig, we're leading. We're-
yeah, that's how I take it too. I think this
We're
is
pioneers.
fantastic. So,
Any
guess
comments
that's all
on
I
this
got.
or questions or?
Looks good.
I think it's fantastic and I'm a super nerd for it and I want to take a picture of this after. I'm-
you can have
Take it home. I gotta
Get
get
out there and
closer.
do hard hats and shovels and take a picture.
it. Yeah.
Alright.
I have one question.
Yeah,
What is the longevity of the sidewalks? I know we have issues in Bangor with our sidewalks.
How long do they last?
Yeah.
They can
That's a lot of
last,
sidewalk.
yeah, that is a lot of sidewalk. You know, hopefully they're lasting 20 years. I've seen sidewalks last 5 years, you know, it's all depends on what material is under them. And we build our sidewalks with typically 12 inches of gravel and 2 inches of pavement.
Mhm.
That's usually what's based on. If that 12 inches of gravel is sitting on something that's very, you know, mobile, something that absorbs a lot of water and gets seasonal frost and thaw, they won't last long.
The majority of this isn't like a residential neighborhood, though. This is gonna be on the bridge, which means you're gonna have a better understructure, so you're gonna have a lot more longevity. Yeah, I think a lot of our failing sidewalks in residential neighborhoods are because the clay has
Yeah.
gone through that underlayment.
I say that because we had a sidewalk in front of my house and it lasted 5 years.
Yeah.
It was like, holy cow, what the heck happened?
People call them the
This,
city.
this.
And just having a sidewalk there is gonna make me such a game changer for that area, cause I hate when I'm driving and I see somebody who's like just clinging to the side. Trying to make their way across
Yeah.
the bridge because they need to walk, and like, having a sidewalk is gonna be huge.
So I suspect, they're starting this in 2026. I gotta think this is gonna be at least a 2-year job for them to do this, but I imagine they're gonna try and do it similar to Broadway, where they're gonna, build a temporary bridge, put traffic on temporary bridge, kick it over, do it in stages, so.
Nice. Excellent. All right.
That adjourns our meeting.
All right, thank you, guys.